What is up, everyone? Welcome into Titans Tube Recap Podcast. The Miami Dolphins beat the Tennessee Titans 16-10 on the road.
Dang it.
Yeah, it's bad, man.
What the heck?
Yeah, it's bad.
Sorry.
That's his hot take reaction to the
Continue.
game, which is justified. But if you've noticed, which you should have by now, unless you're just listening, we have a special guest with us today, Mr. Luke Worsham from the Titan-sized blog/podcast. Yes. Luke, I'll let you do your little intro. Welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
I work for Titan-sized, which covers the Titans for the fan-sided network. I write for their blog, and I host and produce their podcast every week. We'll be back tomorrow with a recap of this game, which will probably have a similar mood to this recap of the game.
A mood of anger, a mood of just confusion. No. Anyways, we appreciate you coming on the show.
Absolutely. So where can we listen to this podcast, and when does it air?
You can find the podcast on iTunes and on Blog Talk Radio. You can follow Titan-sized at Titan_size. They'll tweet out links to it. You can follow me. I'll tweet out links to it.
There you go. That's Luke Worsham from Titan-sized.
We'll have some info in the description too below.
Yes, but he's joining us for his recap here first at Titans Tube.
Yes.
Yeah, and then Titans Tube gets the recap first from Luke.
This week, Titans Tube gets my opinions before Titan-sized gets my opinions.
That's right. That's how we do it. Okay, let's get into the game. This was a set. I don't even know honestly where to begin. Obviously, Matt Castle starting for the Titans here. Mariota. They said he was a game time decision, but it came out late last night that was a ploy by the Titans all along, and that they were going to keep him out of this game. So Matt Castle got the start.
And after the game, Malarkey was like, someone asked him how close. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Take a mic at least when you talk. Sorry, we're having to share mics here since we only have two, so just deal with that.
Basically, I was just going to say, Malarkey said that the decision to start Mariota or to sit him was not really even close to begin with, because I think a reporter asked him about that, and he was like, it wasn't really close to the decision.
He said Mariota is still day to day, and you can either believe NFL Network or you can believe me on that. Yeah. So.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like a coach would lie
matter.
in that situation.
I don't know. Okay, let's get into the game. Initial thoughts. Luke, let's start with you. Initial thoughts over the overall game. What'd you think?
Well, someone asked me before the game if it was going to be a disaster, and I told them that the Titans would win the game if they didn't turn the football over. Unfortunately, they turned the football over twice, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Yes, correct.
The Castle strip, scoop and score.
The incomplete pass he threw.
Yeah, we'll talk about that more in a second, I'm sure.
There
was that, and I think there was another fumble. But when you don't have your starting quarterback like the Titans did today, and you have a backup who's as ineffective in this system as Matt Castle has shown to be, you have to, number one, not turn the football over, but number two, you have to run the ball. And we were talking a minute ago, DeMarco Murray and Derrick Henry combined for only 18 carries, and Matt Castle threw the ball over 40 times. That's a recipe for disaster. Almost even when Mariota's playing, you don't really want him having to throw the ball that much, but especially when Matt Castle's playing, you can't do that.
Yeah. That was actually, so in our preview episode, that was my key to the game, was playing a clean game, no turnovers, because I didn't think our offense was going to put up a lot of points, and I thought our defense could hold Cutler and the Dolphins, who have only combined for 6 points in the last two games against the Jets, and then the Saints, their defense is just smothering. So I thought the key would be just taking care of the ball, which we didn't do. Stat correction for you, Matt Castle only threw it 32 times, which is still 32. Way more than Matt Castle should be throwing, but
yes.
But I definitely agreed with you on the running stats.
How many yards did the 32 go for?
Castle's stats were 21 of 32 for 41 yards. That's a 4.4 yards per pass average. He did have the one touchdown pass to Supernall, and then no interceptions, but that critical fumble. But the offense just looks completely different with him out there. I mean, I honestly think that goes without saying. If you watch the game, it's different, and the game was ugly. I just want to hear your thoughts on the game.
I'd almost say something about Mariota. I mean, does that mean that our offensive system is just bad, and then Mariota can kind of transcend that lack in production, and he's able just to, by his skill alone, is able to make the offense work? And if we have another quarterback like Castle come in, and everything is just completely ineffective, it seems like. We couldn't get the running game going. That was my key. That if we, dominated the trenches, success in running the football, we should be able to win this game. And it's not like, I wouldn't say our running game was completely shut down. DeMarco Murray went 14 carries for 58 yards. That's a 4.1 yards per carry average. We just couldn't sustain any drives. We had too many 3-and-outs. We were 2 for 13 on third downs in the first place, so we just couldn't get any kind of rhythm going. Matt Castle had some terrible duck throws that is kind of unsurprising to see. But the offensive line, could have played better. Taylor Lewan went out with that knee injury that was bothering him. Mm-hmm. I saw Dennis Kelly getting beat for a sack at least one time. It probably happened more. But Castle got sacked 6 times in this game. That's worse than what we were against Houston in pass protection, wasn't it? What do we have? We gave up a couple sacks.
I don't think we've given up 6 sacks this year.
Yeah, so the offensive line kind of stunk it up in pass protection. Maybe that has to do with Castle not having near the pocket awareness and presence that Mariota does, but just a poor performance overall. And even DeMarco Murray, if you want to call him a bright spot and having a decent day production wise, having a difficult time speaking here.
Get that out.
He had that fumble early in the game, which gave the Dolphins 3 free points. And then, our second turnover went directly for a touchdown. So we gifted them 10 points in this game. So, turnovers, offense's inability to sustain drives, doom.
And, the thing about Castle is I think he played a decent game. I mean, he played good football. He made good decisions. He's just not talented at all. I mean, every time he throws the football past the sticks, it looks like it takes every bit of mustard he has just to get it past the sticks.
Yeah. And we noticed this too, whenever he would throw the ball in the right spot, the receiver is expecting the ball to be there, but you can tell that they're having to wait for the ball to get to him.
I mean, with Mariota, he's such a timing quarterback where when a receiver makes a break on their route, the ball is right there ready for them to catch.
Before they even get there.
Yeah. Whereas with Matt Castle, they make the break, and then now all of a sudden they're having to sit there and wait for the ball to get there. And I think that can really throw off receivers.
Oh, yeah. Especially, I think a lot of this, and I think we've talked about in the past, even with Mariota at the helm, a lot of our offense is dictated by the rhythm that Mariota gets in with his receivers, by the rhythm of the run game and the offensive line and their push. When that gets thrown out of whack, say starting Matt Castle, who, I'll say this, I was pretty critical of him coming in, especially on Twitter, of how he was going to perform after last week's performance. And I will say this, it was not his fault we lost, but he definitely did not help us in the fact, trying to win the game. He didn't play terrible by any means, and he didn't cost us the game, but I think just the fact that he's back there cost the whole offense. We're obviously lacking with him at the helm. I think he's an inadequate backup quarterback. Mm-hmm. And I think I heard this on the way home on Titans radio. I think it's becoming a criticism of John Robinson based on Mariota's tendencies to, his injury proneness, shall you say. Why didn't we go out and try to secure a better backup quarterback than Matt Castle?
I think it kind of goes back to that very last game last year against Houston where we put Castle on the field and we won the game in week 17, a game that didn't really count. So I think that really helped his case. He was familiar with the system. There's a few reasons, I guess. But he just, like you said, he's just not very skilled. He's not very talented. If you want to go back to when he filled in for Tom Brady and led him to 11 wins or whatever.
That was 9 years ago.
That was so long ago. That was like a different lifetime.
9 years ago, and then, hold on, dogs barking in the back. That was 9 years ago, and even then, that team that he was leading was the year before an 18-0 Super Bowl, team. Yeah, Titans aren't that. Even though a lot of people thought they may be coming into the year with the debilitated AFC South.
If you look at the backup quarterbacks that have had success over the last several years, Dak Prescott last year filling in for Tony Romo. You mentioned Castle coming in for Brady. All of those situations, the backup quarterback that comes in is a young guy who's pretty raw most of the time, but they have the arm to get it past the sticks. Castle is 35. He's not going to scare anybody with his arm. And I think
he's doing the opposite.
I think moving forward,
he's scaring us.
Yeah,
fans.
the Titans have to understand that Marcus Mariota is just not going to play 16 games. And there's nothing wrong with that. There are plenty of good quarterbacks who are like that. Ben Roethlisberger went through a long stretch where he would miss a couple of games every year. But you have to have a backup who can run the offense and, if nothing else, not hurt you if he's in the game.
True.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, Matt Castle didn't hurt us on the numbers this game.
I mean, how often does a quarterback not throw an interception and you say he cost you the game?
Yeah, very true. And then on Castle's one turnover, which we can go ahead and talk about this, the fumble, incomplete pass, that whole stretch. I mean, I thought it was kind of a weird game, anyways. A terrible from a fan of the NFL. It was a terrible game to watch. No offense. The only stars of the game really were the punters, who put up over 1,000 yards combined in punting.
Killing it.
Yeah. But back to that one critical drive, which was kind of the difference in the game. We have the pass interference called back.
On the
long touchdown pass to Delaney Walker. Jonnu Smith gets called for really ticky-tack offensive pass interference. And then turn around, and Matt Castle gets strip sacked for a return fumble, which a lot of people thought was an incomplete pass. What do you guys think about this?
Yeah. Both of them were ticky-tack, I think, and they both went against us. But the strip sack, fumble. I didn't like how it was played out by the refs. Wasn't everyone reacting like it was an incomplete pass? Mm-hmm. And then it took them 15 seconds to finally make the official ruling on the field. Mm-hmm. So then when you go back to review it, then by default, if it's inconclusive or whatever, then you have to go by the ruling on the field. And it sucks that it took them that long to figure out what to call in the first place.
I think that's the official's mindset in that situation is, okay, we're going to let this go because turnovers are reviewed and scores are reviewed. So we're going to let this go so that no one has to use a challenge and it's automatically reviewed. Well, the problem with that is if it's an incomplete pass, it doesn't affect either team, positively or negatively.
Sure.
If it's a fumble, regardless of if you get the return for a touchdown or not, that's a huge impact play in the game.
Yep.
So while I certainly understand the mindset, I think it's something that maybe the NFL officiating committee in the future could look at, this issue of letting them play because we know it's going to go to review, because that can really affect the game more so than just calling it incomplete on the field.
But if they call that incomplete and then you go back and review it, and then it was an obvious fumble, then there's no way to overturn that, right? So
you would get the fumble, you just wouldn't get the touchdown.
Yes.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I mean, and that's a really good point, Luke, because I'm a fan of I thought, if I wasn't watching the Titans game, I would be a fan of the call that the refs made live, in the live action, because I think in situations like that, it is a very safe call for them to let it play out. In this case, it played out really negatively for the Titans being returned for touchdowns. But in most cases, you'll see officiating crews call that incomplete where there's no option for a review, even if it was close. I think this cost the Titans because the call on the field was a fumble, and then when you went back and reviewed it, it was such a bang, too close to call, too close to overview with the evidence that they had. And since it was returned for a touchdown, it ended up costing us so much, especially looking at the scope of the game. But I like how the refs called that, I guess. I like how they let it play, because in the end, they can go back and review it. If it was incomplete, they can change that, as opposed to calling it incomplete on the field. And then there'd be
just to let it play out.
Yes.
But then that sucks for our guys on offense, that if they had been more aware, well, I guess if they didn't hear the whistle blow, then that should be on them anyway. But to go after the guy that picked up the ball and try to make a tackle, prevent a touchdown, regardless of whether they were aware of what the call was or not.
And I think any neutral fan, just of football, if you watch the Titans play, you will see that all season they've been the victim of very ticky-tacky calls. You saw with the block in the back on Decker a couple weeks ago against Seattle, this offensive pass interference, lots of holding penalties that really should not be holding penalties. And I don't know why that's happened with the Titans in particular, but that's a tendency that I hate to see in the NFL, because it really hurts the game to every time something big happens, it comes back because there was a flag. Adoree's punt return touchdowns, right?
Yeah.
The one in the preseason and the one a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, ticky-tack.
Well, it sucks because coming into this game, like we talked about, we were going to have to play a clean game, no turnovers, which we cost ourselves 2 costly turnovers by Murray and Castle. And then also we had 11 penalties today for 77 yards.
Was the one they started first and goal on the 2 and threw the touchdown to Supernall on the 11 because they had 2 straight false starts?
Yeah, 2 straight false starts.
On Supernall.
On
Supernall
Supernall.
had 2 consecutive penalties, and so he kind of wiped out his 2 penalties
But
with that.
time and time again today, I felt like we were kind of shooting ourselves in the foot, which we've seen past Titans teams make. I honestly thought our team has been pretty good this season so far at not making so many costly penalties, especially drive-killing penalties. I know it's happened a few times, but compared to the teams of past, I thought we had relatively cleaned that up, but I saw it a lot here. Johnny Smith alone had 3 penalties
We
today.
saw, how many times did we see a 2nd and 2 or 2nd and 3 situation, then we get called for a false start or something, move us right back. After a solid positive gain, our offense needed something, some rhythm going, and then we shoot ourselves in the foot.
I think the false starts were really kind of bizarre because Mariota is someone that gets to the line and uses the hard count to his advantage, so it's not like the offensive line doesn't have experience with someone, sitting there trying to or pretending like they're wanting to snap the ball. And Castle even said this week, when I'm at the line of scrimmage and I'm in the huddle, my goal is to sound as much like Mariota as I can to keep continuity and to let there be as little change as possible. So that was very weird to me.
It was
all the
weird.
false starts.
And we saw, watching the game on TV, we saw after a few of those penalties, Matt Castle being visibly upset with either his communication with Ben Jones or the offensive line. You've had a week of practice, Matt Castle. Well, I don't get what the deal is with being out of rhythm there.
I mean, not just a week. I mean, Castle's been in the system for 2 years now.
True. So we got a question from Twitter from Across the Pond, and I know we've kind of already been discussing this, but he says, oh, wait. No, never mind. Wrong guy.
Sorry,
Wrong
across
guy.
the pond. You just got demoted.
No, it was across the pond.
What
Sorry.
are we doing?
I'm just tricking you guys. But he says, okay, are we alarmed at the number of offensive flags we're getting, or do we think that will be sorted out before Indy? Do you think, Luke, that the 11 penalties today is a deeper sign of trouble with the team and with the scheme, or do you think it was just kind of a one game instant where we weren't very clean, weren't very ready?
Well, as soon as Taylor Lewan went down with the injury early in the game and he came back, got 2 penalties, and then left, and Dennis Kelly had to come in, that immediately ruins the continuity of the offensive line because these 5 guys have been there for so long working together. So I think the holdings and that kind of thing, that can certainly be explained by the Lewan injury. And the false starts, I want to hear an explanation of that from Mike Mularkey as to why those happen, because to me they seem very fluky, and I'd be interested to see what he had to say about that from a coach's perspective as to why so many false starts.
Yeah.
Because it's not like the crowd in Miami was causing them.
No, definitely. What crowd?
Exactly.
Is almost. They were more adamant about booing Jay Cutler than they were about cheering against the Titans.
I mean, we were laughing about it when we were watching the game. How often does a team head to the locker room with the lead, getting booed, and the fans want a new quarterback?
Yeah. Miami, get it together, guys. That was not classy. You guys are winning the game.
Their offense lived up to the hype. That was the categorical worst offense I've ever watched, ever.
It was pretty bad. Your offense was bad. Maybe you should have booed, but you're still winning, so be happy.
Maybe. Okay,
I think their offense was worse than ours was, and ours was trash.
Ours was trash. Do you think we went away? I mean, the game was never out of hand. Like, say against the Texans where we got away from the run game, that's because we were down 21-0. DeMarco Murray still came away with a nice yards per carry average. Derrick Henry looked weird today. It's just kind of weird how we use Derrick Henry. It's very confusing. I mean, even then, DeMarco Murray got caught on a few plays going laterally instead of north and south, which is not his strength at all. Our running game is a very power run it north and south through the tackles kind of game. I don't know if that was just scheming by Miami to take us out of that at times, but why do you think that, this is a question from Twitter, that DeMarco Murray only ended up with 14 carries? Why aren't we sticking to that more, especially with, you mentioned earlier. One possession game. I don't think any of us wanted to rely on Matt Castle trying to come back and win that game. We're not out of it by the second half, but it didn't seem like we were utilizing the run game or even relying on it how we could have been.
I don't understand, because DeMarco Murray is very clearly over his hamstring injury. We saw that on the 75-yard run against Seattle.
He looked good today. Like when he was running with the football, he looked explosive. He had some good cuts.
And I think also the fact that Derrick Henry only carried the ball 4 times tells us that there's nothing wrong with DeMarco Murray. It was just a schematic. They just weren't committed to the running game, and I think that was a problem. And though I think a lot of that, you see 14 carries or for Murray and then the 4 for Henry. This was a team that was going 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, and a lot of those 3 and outs, first and second down, were runs, and then an incomplete pass on third down.
Yeah, could never really get anything going.
I mean,
we kept backing ourselves up with penalties, drives would stall.
So I think that has a lot to do with the number. And Derrick Henry, I got blasted because a month ago I wrote an article saying that I thought he was underwhelming. And then he had the really good game against Jacksonville, and everybody was ready to jump on me. But then he goes out there today and
For Seattle. When they have the good game against Seattle.
Jacksonville.
Or was it Jacksonville?
It was Jacksonville.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because DeMarco had the really good game against.
Oh, I
Seattle.
thought. Okay, yeah. Sorry.
Welcome to the Titans season.
Hey, I'm at the podcast
nice
now.
to join us.
I'm here. Sorry to interrupt.
But yeah, Henry today, he got caught trying to reverse fields at one point. He
almost fumbled, or he did fumble at one point. We recovered it.
I think a lot of it is volume based. He's a guy that needs carries to get going, but he's just so hot and cold as a runner. He's not. He's an incredible physical specimen, but when the ball's in his hands, he is not the beast that so many fans seem to think he is. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if he needs more carries, if it's going to take him 10 carries before he's consistently getting chunk yards on every play. But if he's just getting 4 carries in a game, I just assume give those carries to DeMarco Murray, because Henry is useless when he only gets 4 carries.
Yeah, and even having DeMarco Murray in the backfield in those situations brings up a threat of his receiving. He's a much better receiving back than Derrick Henry. So yeah, I agree with you. If we're only going to utilize Henry in 4 to 5 plays a game, why not just go ahead and keep Murray back there with the threat of his receiving back there? So this is the 5th straight game where we started off really slow on offense. Obviously, Castle was the quarterback in this one, but only came away with 3 points at halftime. Here's a question from Twitter that I want to kind of get your take, because we've discussed it a lot, but from Billy Smith. He said he's tired of starting slow. Yes, welcome. Thank you, Billy. Do you think, should the Titans find a new offensive coordinator? Also, how much do you think... yeah, that's what he's saying. How much do you think our slow starts by the offense are dictated by the play calling or the offensive coordinator? Because... we've seen it with Mariota. We haven't had any fast starts with him, and now Castle comes in, different quarterback, and we see the same thing.
It's really interesting because NFL teams will script their first 15 or so plays of a game, and obviously if there's a sack on the first play, they're not going to... things can change, but for the most part, those first 15 or 20 plays are very scripted. And so clearly for the Titans, they're not scripting those plays very well because they consistently get off to these terribly slow starts. Terry Robisky, he does some really good things, and he does some really bizarre things on the offense. We like to joke about the Taywan Taylor end-around plays at random times in the game. But the idea of this offensive genius in the NFL that the Titans need to go out and get someone like a Josh McDaniels, a Hugh Jackson, and Adam Gase, someone like that, it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, at the end of the day, it comes down to personnel. And I don't know that if the Browns fire Hugh Jackson and we were to bring him in here, I don't know that he would be able to rescue this offense because of his mind and the way he calls plays. I don't think the coaching staff needs to change. I think the coaching staff is just fine. I think that the Titans are really missing Corey Davis, who was, they made the offer for Brandon Cooks trying to get a deep threat. That didn't work out. They didn't go after anyone like an Alshon Jeffrey or Terrell Pryor in free agency. They ended up getting Corey Davis, and they said, this guy's going to be our number 1 receiver. This guy's going to be our deep threat. They don't have that right now, and I think the lack of a deep threat on offense and the fact that all your targets, other than the targets to the tight ends, are going to Decker and Matthew, neither one of which is going to really scare you downfield. I think that more than anything is hurting the offense right now.
Well said.
Well, yeah, very well said. Because
so
I'll agree with you.
No big issues with Robisky then, and how he calls games, calls plays. I mean, yeah, you said the Taywan Taylor random play calls here and there, and like what are we doing? Sometimes on third down, looks like we're running plays that we'll get the receiver the ball, but he has to do extra work to get the first down. We're running short routes here and there. I don't know, just being ticky-tacky about Robisky.
I think at times he does get too cute, like on that. And last year when the Titans played Denver, he ran that bizarre DeMarco Murray wildcat pass to Mariota that was an incompletion. It's the things like that more than the slow starts that worry me about Robisky. But no, you certainly can't judge his ability to call plays off of what happened today. Because if he had Marcus Mariota, the Titans would have marched straight down the field and easily won this game, I feel like.
And see, that honestly, that's what's kind of worrying me at this situation in the season. This game was pretty infuriating to watch as a Titans fan, but a lot of it we're just going to overlook because Matt Castle was the quarterback. Say Mariota's in this game, I think we can all agree the game would have probably looked completely different. I think we win this game pretty easily, especially with how our defense played. And I think a lot of how our defense played was predicated on how bad Miami's offense and Jay Cutler was.
Definitely.
But I think it's going to be really difficult because now, we've had all these slow starts. It comes out that Mariota gets hurt. Castle takes over for one game at the least. And then we get Mariota back 2 weeks, and then we're into a bye week. If we continue to see these issues for the next 2 weeks, we play Monday night against the Colts and then against the Browns. I'm just confused by this team, I guess is what I'm saying.
Malarkey says that Mariota is day to day. You have 8 days until they play the next game. They have Monday Night Football, so that gives Mariota an extra day to rest and get healthy. If he is indeed day to day and he's ready to play in 8 days, he could also be joined by Jonathan Cyprien, and he could also be joined by Corey Davis. And once those 3 guys are healthy, which they very well could be on Monday night, at home, good atmosphere against a team you haven't beaten in 5 years, I think this could be a completely different team the next time we watch them go out on the field.
The team that we saw against the Jaguars and Seahawks.
But minus... Yeah, I'm just saying, but minus Corey Davis and Jonathan Cyprien, we saw this team last week against the Texans get absolutely blasted. And I know Matt Castle contributed to a lot of that at the end, but I'm just saying, even with Mariota comes back, I'm still worried that the issues with this team are deeper than what Mariota brings to it.
And you make a good point, because this is not a team that's built to come back from large deficits.
Exactly, yeah.
They don't have... Rashard Matthews can stretch the field to an extent, but they don't have anyone who, they don't have an Odell Beckham. They don't have a Deshaun Jackson, someone that can stretch the field deep and get you 7 points in 3 seconds.
Yeah.
They don't have that. They run the football. They're a physical team. Short passes, yards after the catch. That's their game. And unfortunately, the way they're built, that game doesn't work when you get down by 14 and by 21. So it's huge for the Titans, and they even did it today, to stay within one score.
Yes.
Yeah,
true.
I think I'm sure the coaching staff or the team in general was feeling pretty good, at least when it was 10-10. I felt like, hey, we kind of got this. We're shutting them down. We finally got a touchdown drive going. But yeah, we just couldn't close the deal. Couldn't get enough offense sustained.
Yeah, true. So how do you think our defense played today?
It's hard to know, because the Dolphins' offense is
exactly
so dysfunctional and so terrible. I don't know. Jay Ajayi had a decent day. There were some carries he had where I thought he shouldn't have been able to get the chunk yards that he was able to get. Jarvis Landry kind of came alive toward the end of the game. I think the biggest bright spot for the defense today was Adoree Jackson. He played well, made several tackles. He broke up what would have been a touchdown for the Dolphins. And I think something that's scary to this point of the season is that through 5 games, Brian Orakpo only has 1 sack, and he's made very little impact other than that.
He's been pretty quiet.
I think that's really scary for the Titans right now.
I think it's scary how non-existent our pass rush has been so far through 5 games. We only had 1 sack today against Jay Cutler. Jarrell Casey coming late in the game, where I feel like it was more Jay Cutler's fault than it was Jarrell Casey's doing, which is worrisome based on, our secondary is going into this game, allowing the second most touchdowns already thrown against them. And I think some of that deals with how non-existent our pass rush has been. We'll get a few sacks here and there, but overall the consistency of pressuring the quarterback just has been non-existent. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, seeing Jay Cutler back there just kind of dance around in the pocket was killing me. Because our secondary, I think they kind of killed it today. Like, their receivers, didn't do squat except for Jarvis Landry here and there. And of course Jay Cutler was throwing some bad passes, so it's hard to judge, like you're saying. So it's hard to get a reading on our defensive performance overall. But hey, they only allowed one touchdown at the end of the game. That went to Landry. Mm-hmm. I just think that by the end of the game, the defense was getting tired. Jay Ajayi started.
They were on the field
ripping off some bigger gains. They got that first down on 3rd and 7 running the football whenever we still might have had enough time to mount a final drive. But defense, I think, was just starting to get worn down at the end of the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think by that point I heard it was over 100 degrees on the field, which obviously Titans aren't used to playing in. So I think we were definitely dealing with fatigue by the end of the game.
An interesting fact about the Dolphins stadium, when they remodeled it, what was previously Sun Life, and they made it into Hard Rock. They added the roofing, which covers the fans and the Dolphins bench. It does not cover the Titans bench.
Oh, that's dirty.
Bench.
That is very dirty. Foul play.
So the Dolphins were in the shade all day, and the Titans were in that, if you say 100-degree sun all day long.
Well, during the winter months, that means the opposing team will get the warm sunlight while the home team freezes. Well, it's not ever going to freeze.
It's Miami. I don't know.
Yeah,
so they're just
cheaters.
It is
Miami. Yeah, they're just that's home team advantage, home court advantage for you. Even though it's not a Cordes Field, and the rest were playing into that as well.
Yeah.
But okay, back to this.
Defense.
So I don't know, defense.
Is there anything else to say about the defense?
I was saying, I still feel like a lot of the issues we saw in today's game are going to be attributed to just Matt Castle starting. We're going to overlook it when I think the issues we're seeing are still have been there from the start of the season. I just don't know how to fix them.
The problem with the defense is that they're not getting enough pressure when they're only rushing 4.
Yeah, or
Racco
3
is doing nothing. Morgan is doing some things. Casey has not been the player that we're used to seeing. So when you rush 4, your terrible secondary is going to get picked on. And when you blitz, your terrible secondary, I mean, they're all blitzing. So there's less of them. I mean, it's an issue that LeBeau is having to deal with, and he can't seem to figure it out right now.
I thought that blitz on their touchdown was kind of ill-timed, or maybe just poorly executed. Mm-hmm. Kevin Byard, I saw coming in blitzing pretty late on the play, and we didn't have enough in coverage.
Yeah, a delayed blitz when they're in the red zone.
Yeah.
They're not having to run that deeper routes. It was a little confusing.
So defense was fine. They did enough. We forced 2 turnovers, man. 2 turnovers and got...
But we gave up
2 turnovers.
2 turnovers. Yeah. So that was pretty much
but I'm just saying defense.
I mean, it came down to maybe our defense was fatigued, but Jay Cutler and the Miami's Dolphins offense made enough plays when it counted.
Which is so bizarre to say, considering how bad they were.
Yeah, how bad they were, how bad they've been playing up to that point. How good our defense had been playing, if you want to say that. I agree that Adoree Jackson had a really great game. I also thought Kevin Byard was another guy who had a pretty good game overall. I think like the blitz and stuff, he may have made some mistakes late, but we're going against Jay Cutler. So in the Miami's offense, who's last in the league in scoring points and yards per average, but it's I think the concerns are more on our offensive side of the ball for sure.
Yeah,
especially without Mariota.
There's no speed at all. Even with Mariota, there's no speed of the skill positions.
So this comes from the Irish Titans, which is a Titans Twitter account. And this is kind of general, but I kind of want to hear you guys' take. So, guys, after that pathetic performance against an absolute terrible team, which I'll agree with, Dolphins coming into this game were terrible.
Yes.
Where do we go from here? We're 1-1 in the division. We got the Colts next Monday night at home, but we haven't beaten them in over 5 straight years. Where do we go from here? What do you think needs to improve on this team?
Pray for Mariota to come back, because I don't think we can win without Mariota. Do you think we can win next week against Indianapolis if Mariota isn't playing?
If the Titans are able to win this week, they won't be the first team from Tennessee to end an 11-game losing streak. Over the last year and a half or so, University of Tennessee ended their 11-year losing streak to the Florida Gators.
Aha.
It has been 11 matchups with the Indianapolis Colts since the Titans have won. 11.
We need Mariota to do it.
So where do you think we go from here?
back to the question.
What do you think? What do you think this team is? You think if Mariota comes back, he's the answer to I don't want to say salvaging the rest of the season because it's too early.
Yeah,
true. But even last week when Mariota played the first half, we found ourselves in a deep hole right off the bat.
I just think that the Titans need to start forfeiting the game at Houston and cut their losses before they go in, because this team cannot win in Houston.
No.
Not only can they not win, they can't even compete in Houston. It's never even close, those games. If this team obviously this team needs their quarterback, Marcus Mariota, but this team needs Corey Davis. The number 5 pick in the draft, that's prime draft capital, and they used it on this guy, and he's done nothing. He made the catch down the sideline over
for the first down against
over
Oakland.
David
That's
Emerson,
about it. Yeah,
in one of the first drives of the season, and he's done nothing other than that. I mean, it's not his fault; he's hurt, but they need him to be healthy. Bottom line, because when he's healthy and he starts to develop and starts to dictate coverage, that's when this offense can go to a new level. But
did you see that in the one game he's played at the Raiders? Did you see that happening?
I mean, no, because it is his first game and he's a rookie.
Yeah.
That's why it's going to take time. But that time can't start until he's on the field playing. Because a 30-year-old Eric Decker doesn't really scare me. And Rashard Matthews, as good as he is in this system, he doesn't really scare me. Those guys are not going to dictate coverage.
Yeah.
If Corey Davis shows to be a threat down the field and that he can catch everything and run every route in the tree, he can dictate coverage, and that's something that this offense desperately lacks.
So you're pretty high on Corey Davis. We love Corey Davis. You think he can completely change the outlook of this offense and what we want to do?
I think if he's everything the Titans think he is, then he certainly can. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's what we talked about in our episode with PK. Actually, when we brought up Corey Davis and his potential, we kind of referred to him, which was your kind of question, as the missing link to what this team needed. Something we've never had. That. What you just mentioned, Corey Davis can bring to the team, which we still haven't seen 5 games in because of injuries.
If he had played in this game 100% healthy, we probably would have won the game.
Really? With Matt Castle throwing to him? Really? You think Matt Castle could have gotten the ball to him?
It might have had to have been a screen pass. Let Corey Davis break a few tackles, but it's possible.
And you talked about it on your episode with Paul Kuharski. This is a team, a franchise, that has not had a number 1 receiver really since Derek Mason. Nate Washington was older. He was very productive, but he was older.
Kenny Brett was hitting his prime and was looking really like a number 1 receiver.
And then he tore his ACL.
Yeah.
Kendall Wright was Mr. Banana Peels, as I like to call him.
Couldn't stay on his feet.
And this team hasn't had a number 1 receiver. And Corey Davis is the next dart throw. And if he is a number 1 receiver, then that's going to take this offense to the next level.
Yeah. It's just, I guess at this point, I'm kind of... Honestly, Corey Davis is kind of in the back of my mind. One, because he hasn't played that much. 2, because he's dealing with the injury. And it's just hard for me to rely on a player outside of the quarterback position to change an offense that much, because I feel like our issues are almost all across the board. Our running game was really strong last year. This year, it's just been kind of hit and miss. At 1 second, it seems to be working, and then the next second, we're either not sticking with it or scheme is confusing and not utilizing the talents of a running back. So I agree with you that Corey Davis can be that missing link to take us to the next step, but I feel like our issues are deeper than just relying on one person coming back from injury to fix that.
And going back to the talk about Terry Robisky, I think one of the deeper issues is that this team, for whatever reason, refuses to spread the field. And I'm not talking about going empty shotgun and throwing the ball every play. I'm talking, you have your 3 receivers and you run the ball. Because when you're clogged up and you're running these bunch formations where you have 11 people in this circle, the team you're playing is going to have 11 people in the circle.
Exactly.
There's nowhere to go. And so when this team spreads the ball out, they did it today on their touchdown drive where Eric Decker kept catching passes over the middle. They were spread out on that drive, and it worked. And then they went right back to the 3 tight end, fullback. And as good as that stuff worked last year at times, it's not working this year. And you got to try something else.
Our running game is very predictable. I mean, to a T. You know the formations that we're going to run the ball in. You know the formations that we're not going to run the ball in.
And pretty much in a down and distance situation, this is probably going to be a run play.
Yeah, and I think that comes to light even more with a guy like Castle leading the team, because he's not going to...
And that's been a criticism of the coaching staff, too, I think, throughout, since we drafted Mariota, or I guess since Ken Wisenhunt got fired, was that, we're not utilizing his skill set to its maximum potential. We're trying to make him fit into this Malarkey Robisky system instead of do what he does best. We've seen him on 2-minute drives. He's brilliant and picking apart a defense when you're spreading the receivers out. So yeah, I don't know. So just throwing that in as well with our offense and predictability. But did we answer the question? Where do we go from here? Irish Titans? No.
I mean, that's kind of what the whole podcast has been about, basically.
Gotta wait for our players to get healthier. Do we need a coaching change? Where do we go?
No, yeah, that's basically what I think he's asking. What do you think? Because we also had someone else ask. We had another ask from.
He wants us to say fire Robisky.
At Corey Taylor 158 says, should the Titans fire someone now?
I hate that question. Like, who are you going to fire? Like, who's
going to
want to fire?
Yeah.
The only person that you could fire is Matt Castle. I mean, like,
bench him or release him.
You don't just fire people when you lose. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah, but this is, and that's why I keep on saying this game is kind of going to be an oversight in the Titans season, because I said last week after that pitiful loss that I thought Malarkey was safe, but I thought that Dick LeBeau and Terry Robisky should start to come under the spotlight for their jobs. You don't just go out and lose to a division rival 57 to 14 without something being wrong.
We called it a fireable offense.
Yes, I did.
We were offended.
Fireable offense. I thought that was the first time I'd ever really thought that maybe those guys, their spots should start to be looked at. But this game's going to be overlooked because of Castle starting, and we didn't see any improvements on their parts, I think. But, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, like you said, do you just go out and fire someone off of 1 or 2 games? No. And especially that, I think that's been a Titans issue over the course of the franchise, is just we haven't had any kind of inconsistency or identity or finally starting to establish that. But NFL fans are super impatient, and Titans fall right in that. So
if you think about it, the Titans' first 6 games are against the Dolphins, who were a playoff team last year, the Raiders, who were a playoff team last year, the Texans, who were a playoff team last year, and the Raiders, who were a playoff team last year. And
say Raiders twice?
No. Okay. Texans, Raiders, Dolphins, and Seahawks.
And Oh, yeah, you said Texans.
And they eviscerated the Seahawks, and they beat the Jacksonville Jaguars. They lost to 3 playoff teams. Beat Indianapolis next week, beat Cleveland. You're 4-3. Did you say heading into a bye week after that?
That's fine.
If you're 4-3 heading into a bye week,
the next 2
after
games.
the toughest stretch of your season, you've got Cleveland later on. You've got San Francisco, who's
Cleveland's
0-5.
Cleveland's the game before the bye.
Oh, excuse me. You've got San Francisco. You've got Cincinnati. San Francisco's 0-5.
Baltimore's not
Baltimore is nothing special. St. Louis is a pretty good football team, but they're a beatable football team. Or Los Angeles. My bad.
Get with 2017, man.
Welcome to the 2017.
Got the Cardinals. I mean,
the Cardinals are not very good unless they have David Johnson, who they probably won't have when these two teams face off.
He could be back by December. I think that's when we play him. But yeah, I mean, the schedule's not tough. I mean, the season isn't lost by any means. How important do you think this next game against the Colts is? Would you call it a must-win? Would we drop it to 2-4?
It's in that territory for sure. I think so. I mean,
not only just for records and standing wise, but as far as team morale and just kind of getting the season back on track in the mental sense. I think it could be a bigger game than what we see on paper.
It's an important game, but I don't think the season's over anymore if you lose that game than it is after this game, necessarily. Especially if Castle plays next week.
Yeah. Someone actually tweeted at us and said, is the season lost if the Titans lose to the Colts on Monday night?
There you go.
I agree with you. It's a very important game. From the aspect of, I think, if we lose, that'll be dropping 3 straight games. The Titans fan base is already open arms, almost.
That's nothing new, though. I mean, the Titans have one of the most overreacting fan bases in the NFL.
But a lot of NFL fan bases are like that, and a lot of NFL ownership and is like that as well. You start seeing Titans came into the season with all this hype. We had a hard stretch the first 5 games or so of the year, but I mean,
even during the 3-2 win seasons, before the season started, everyone thought, this is the year. This is the year we're going to finally put it together.
Zach Mettenberger.
And before this season, we had people getting AFC South champion tattoos. We had, all of this hype, if you will, about the Titans this year, and they just haven't lived up to it so far. But because they haven't lived up to these lofty standards that were probably too high to begin with.
We've never reached any goals in years.
Doesn't mean that they're a bad football team. It doesn't mean that they're a bad football team.
No. I just think that the same issues that we're seeing on this team have been the issues that have been with this team over the past 3 or 4 years. And I don't know where to go about fixing that. I think Corey Davis is definitely a solution to that, but we can't keep him healthy. We can't get him on the field.
They had the last season, this was a pretty good football team. They beat Kansas City in Kansas City. That's a really tough place to play.
And we beat, 5 playoff teams last year?
Yep. They ended up coming short at the end and not winning the division. But they had the big off season, brought in Logan Ryan, had 2 first-round draft picks. And right now, so far, it looks like the exact same team. A team that lacks speed on both offense and defense, that's constantly chasing. A team that gets off to slow starts on offense.
Terrible secondary,
and receivers who can't make plays down the field.
Or create separation.
And 2 of those big acquisitions, we talked about it, Corey Davis and Jonathan Cyprien, have barely touched the field. And I think that has a lot.
So you think a lot of this early stretch has just kind of been bad luck for the Titans? Dealing with some injuries, not being able to get the chemistry going, the rhythm working.
I mean, you hear the term often mid-season form.
Yeah.
A receiver has a big game in week 1, and you say, wow, they're already in mid-season form. The Titans are not in mid-season form.
They're like in preseason stages in some of these games.
I think with the personnel that they have on offense and defense, if they get into mid-season form, it can be a really scary team that can rip off wins back-to-back and go on a streak.
Yeah.
Right now, they're not that.
We need to be back in November form from last year.
Not December form.
Not Christmas Eve form.
We're still reeling from that loss to Jacksonville on Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
I almost feel like at this point the Titans and the coaching staff is just like playing for the bye week. Like let's see how we can do, like survive, not get blown out anymore through these next few games. Yeah, maybe steal one, but which kind of bodes back to the Houston game where Malarkey chose to sit Mariota after they came out and scored on that opening drive of the second half, kind of almost like giving up on that game. I mean, like let's just go ahead and keep him out, get him ready for the next week. Mariota didn't play today. We lost again. So it's almost like they're just being too careful with the season.
Everybody's day to day. Everybody has a hamstring injury.
Well, look at Indianapolis and the Colts. They're using a third-string quarterback with Jacoby Brissett, and they've got the same record as we do right now. And this is the first game we've had without Mariota.
Yeah, which
so that speaks, I think, pretty bad. That
they're
able to get the same amount of wins that we do. They're using a third-string quarterback. We've had our second-string quarterback for 2 years now. Same guy, same system.
Who, if you had told me at the beginning of the year we'd be matching up with the Colts on Monday night where we've had Mariota for the majority of the games and they've been starting Jacoby Brissett and we're coming in with the same record, I would have told you you're crazy. Because I thought we'd have eaten.
But they're not.
But we're not.
I've had a feeling for a long time that this would be the week that Andrew Luck finally returns. I don't think it's going to happen, but...
Don't jinx it, man.
Hey, yeah, seriously, it could happen.
Shoot, I don't know, man. Jacoby Brissett, he's not looking awful. He's certainly better looking than Jay Cutler.
All right, we'll talk about that next week. Let's go.
I'm trying to put this loss behind us.
Yeah,
man.
seriously. Yeah. Let's go. Closing thoughts. Justin? We've been going long enough.
Season's not over. This was a disappointing loss. I felt like we could have and really should have won this game. Had some bad penalties, bad unfortunate calls against us that really could have changed the outlook of the game. But it is what it is. Pray for Mariota to get healthy because it's hard to see us winning, like putting the offense that we have out on the field with Matt Castle running the show. It's hard to see us winning another game. I think the Colts, honestly, are better than the Dolphins as an overall team. So, yeah, we'll see. I'm hoping Mariota gets back next week. And, season's not over. We got 2 winnable games coming up, then the bye week. This team has the same record that it did last year. At this point, we were 2-3. Except last year, we came off of a beatdown of the Dolphins.
Yeah, is that a good thing though? Because I feel like we should be a way better team at this point than the team last year.
Yeah.
Anyways, Luke,
silver lining.
Most people went into this game thinking that it was going to be a disaster. It wasn't a disaster.
It was pretty much a disaster.
Well, people thought we were going to get blown. I didn't expect
it was a one-possession game.
Yeah.
They lost. So you could say they met expectations in a way. So I don't think it's anything to necessarily freak out about. You need your quarterback to win games. Point blank. Unless you have...
expected to win, though, a little bit.
Unless you have
them to win.
a backup with an arm that... is better than Matt Castle's, you're not going to win games without your quarterback. And you're not going to win games punting back and forth and playing field position. The Titans, I'm going to say this, the Titans played high school football today. And you're not going to win in the NFL against good teams. Dolphins are not. You're not going to win in the NFL against good teams playing like that.
Or bad teams.
If you go into a game and your plan to win is to win the field position battle, there's something wrong with that. And I honestly
Kern gave it a heck of an effort, though.
He
almost won us the game with that. With the field position.
Cheers to Brett Kern, MVP of the game.
But that was clearly the Titans' plan today with an inept quarterback, and it didn't work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like the signing of Brandon Weeden and then sticking with Matt Castle only confirms that Mariota's hamstring injury is nothing serious. I know there's reports of him being out 2 to 4 weeks or so, which worries me that they'll just keep him out to the bye week. With him being game time, calling him a game time decision, I'm hoping that he's going to be ready to go next Monday night against the Colts, and then all this conversation we just had about how much Castle sucks at running the offense will be irrelevant outside of this game. And so I kind of like to put this one behind us again. It sucks because I feel like we said that at the end of last week against Houston. Just put this one game behind us. It was just a bad game. The whole team was off. Yeah, Mario got hurt, but he's coming back. But I kind of want to say that again. Just the problem is that this is the team that beat us out for that last playoff spot in the AFC last year. And so this loss could come back to haunt us if we get into a late season tiebreaker with some of these AFC teams. I don't think the Dolphins are going to be one of them, but still, a loss in your conference could cost you a playoff spot near the end.
Conference record matters in tiebreakers for sure.
Mm-hmm. So that is a cause of worry for me that I'll just tuck away for now and maybe bring back up later in the season. But other than that,
we shouldn't be thinking of playoffs. Playoffs?
Why are we talking playoffs?
Can't even win a game.
I'm just saying, other than the fact that it was an AFC game, I would just like to put this game aside with Matt Castle starting and stuff. But yeah, that's all I got.
Word.
Luke, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
We went on for a long enough time.
We did. Well, yeah, we normally just go along for 50 minutes with just us two. So we did actually pretty good.
Break
with Luke on,
our records here.
So thank you.
Did we get to enough questions? If we didn't get to your questions, sorry. Maybe just ask a better question.
I mean, a lot of the questions were covering the same subject. So if I didn't call you out by name, I think we at least covered the topics that you wanted to hear.
A lot of them were probably very cynical too.
Outside of
Twitter,
outside of any Kaepernick questions, which if you guys wanted to cover that real quick, we could. But no, I think we're good.
What about Clorox? The cheapest place to buy Clorox. Because we drinking bleach tonight.
Which store sells the cheapest bleach? Denzel Bowers? I don't know. Probably Walgreens, maybe. I don't know. Unless you got a Kroger card.
The Titans wouldn't be going anywhere with Colin Kaepernick because he came up a yard short in the Super Bowl too.
Why? Get out! Get out! You're not allowed back.
That'll be your last chance on the show. The last time to see your face. So thanks for joining us.
Follow him. Read Titan-sized blogs. And listen to their podcast.
Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, which I already know you're going to do.
Yeah.
So we want to hear your takes on the game and what do you think is the wrong... Where do we go from here? As the Irish Titan said, where do we go from here?
I can't believe I called Derrick Henry useless. My Twitter mentions are about to go down the drain.
You lost a follower in us, at least.
Yeah.
So. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Shouldn't have said that.
Anyways, see you next week, Monday night at home. Titans versus Colts.
Cheers.